Hi and welcome. I'm the Reverend Dr. Cheryl Cave, a Presbyterian minister of 3 congregations in Eastern Ontario, and I'm also the questioning pastor. Today's question is particularly nasty. Did humans invent God? It's nasty because there's no way we can know for sure and prove scientifically. So one of the theories out there is that we didn't understand the natural world, so we invented gods to explain what we couldn't understand. So there's thunder, so we invent a thunder god. The sea is rough, so we invent a sea god. And then we invent stories of why is the sea god angry, or why is the sky god angry, or the thunder god. And then, of course, it's what can we do to placate them, to make them happy, so they'll give us what we want, which is probably rain for our crops, but no thunder, thank you. No lightning, we don't want fires. And then we want the sea to be good weather for fishing, not rough that the boats can't get back to shore, not so calm and peaceful that they can't sail. So we want things, and we'll figure out ways of praying to the gods or offering sacrifices to the gods to get what we want. And gradually that evolves into religions. Okay, that's quite possible. I don't know, but it sounds quite reasonable. A variation of that religion, of that explanation, is that we were visited by alien beings from other planets who were very much more advanced technologically than we were. And so we look at what they were doing and said they must be divine, they must be gods. And so you can say, okay, if they were flying around, they must be gods because human beings don't fly. Think of Star Trek, The Next Generation, and the one episode where someone fell and died and then suddenly came back to life because the Crusher beamed him up to the infirmary, and they fixed him up and then sent him back down. So he's all brand new, and he feels, he was miraculously, he died and he's brought back to life. Surely they must be gods because they cured him. And since he was awake during some of this, he heard Picard's name was mentioned. So Picard is the name of the god. Perfectly reasonable explanation of why we believe in gods. But it operates from a worldview that what we see in science, in our natural world, is all there is. What if God actually does exist, or gods do exist? Well, that doesn't come into the picture with that kind of worldview. More importantly, what about the human experiences of God, or the divine, or of spiritual life? These experiences are very real. But there's a whole segment of the world that just rejects them, says they're not real, or they don't happen, or coincidence. But for those who experience them, those experiences are very much real, and they open us to the possibility of a world beyond what science can tell us. So let me just give you a couple of examples from my own life, or in my family, or that I've been raised with. Years ago, my mother ended up in the ER. She was a teenager and she was in labor. The only problem was she wasn't pregnant. Meanwhile, her sister, who lived a couple of states over, ended up in a hospital giving birth to a baby with absolutely no labor pains. I think my mother got the wrong end of that deal. That was sort of, I would say it was sort of a common experience in the family. I remember being on a trip, my parents and my aunt I don't think it was the same aunt as the one who gave birth. And we checked into the motel, and suddenly my aunt said, I have to go home. Something's happened to my daughter. What I don't remember, I think she did call her daughter to double check, and something had indeed happened, and my aunt took off. But my aunt knew something had happened to my daughter, to her daughter, before calling her. As I said, this was normal. It was normal in our next door neighbor's family. Marjorie would, I remember being told one time she bumped her arm or sprained at something and got a call from her sister in England saying, what did you do to your arm? Okay. There's things like that that happen that open our mind, that there's more to this world than just what science can tell us. There are connections that we have with one another that are beyond sort of time and space. Then you can add in a spiritual experience. So I remember a friend of mine died, a close friend. And I told my mom I was going to go visit her. And my mother told me she had died. And I said, why? And my mother said, God needed her more than we did. And I heard a voice saying, I do not. And I'm like, okay. And my mother, of course, thought I was saying okay to her, but I wasn't. I was saying okay to this voice I'd heard. And it was like, that was God speaking with me. And did he ever explain why my friend died? No. He just told me the answer I was given was wrong. And I've had similar experiences, where it's like, I need to call someone. I need to call someone. And I didn't, and they died. Or I did and found they needed to talk. And I just, that kind of pressure, I believe it is from God. Doesn't mean that every voice I hear or every time I hear a voice, it's going to be God's. No, I think my unconscious, I have very vivid imagination, and my unconscious can make up quite a lot of skits and things like that. But it opens my mind to the possibility of something more. So did humans create God? If you have a very small view of life and nature, the answer is yes. If you have this bigger worldview, this bigger experience of life, you already know there's something more out there. And that it's quite possible for whatever exists out there to interact with us. Is that a spiritual being of some kind? Is that God? Is that real gods or other gods? A lot of that depends on our religious tradition. Will we know for sure? Can we know for sure? Probably not. Maybe when we die sometime, somewhere along the line, we'll suddenly discover that's the answer. Thank you. But until then, until we leave this very limited world, the best we can do is just be open to the possibilities. Thank you. Once again, I'm the Reverend Dr. Cheryl Gaver, questioning pastor. Take care. Have a great day and see you next time.